Hello and welcome to Watkins Wise Words, a podcast that celebrates conscious, passionate, wise and happy living. Thank you for tuning in, and here is your host.
So hi there, my name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Nicholas Ngan on his book, Your Soul Contract Decoded. And Nicholas has developed a profoundly transformative body of work called Soul Contract Work from the Center for Conscious Ascension in conjunction with Dr. Almira Ariel Haller. And Nicholas has worked at the cutting edge of raising human consciousness for over 20 years and is the author of Your Soul Contract Decoded, Discovering the Spiritual Map of Your Life with Numerology, which is being published by Watkins Publishing, I think it's March 2013. And Nicholas' website is centerforconscioussascension.net, and that will go out with this podcast. So Nicholas, hi.
Hi Steve, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, pleasure. Now, before what I didn't say in that intro was that I've used this system for a number of years, and I've used it in kind of relationships, business. I've used it in my own personal understanding about my spiritual kind of journey. So I know it's got very broad applications, and I highly recommend the system. But I'm going to speak to you as if I don't really understand the system. So people listening to this podcast will get a kind of good idea. But Nicholas, before we get into that, what is your journey around kind of your spiritual journey before you came to this system?
Well, I did a lot of traveling in the 80s, and I spent a lot of time traveling around Asia and seeing just how linked spirituality was to normal life, having come from a Western country like New Zealand. And I was searching for something. There was a meaning for my life, which was beyond just working for a company, which is what I used to do. And this journey was part of it. And as part of that journey, I ended up traveling to the USA to attend some spiritual workshops by Frank Alper of the Arizona Metaphysical Society. And when I got to those workshops in about 1990, I'd found my spiritual home. I'd started to find what I was looking for. I found people who were like-minded, very open to spirituality. And that was sort of the beginning, really. So I've always been looking for home, and I'd started to find it. And as part of that training, I received what was called a spiritual numerology of Moses reading from Frank, where he sat me down for an hour and converted my name to phonetic Hebrew sounds and took those sounds, the numbers that go with Hebrew, and put them on a Star of David. And he basically decoded what I now call the soul contract of my name. And in that hour explained my whole life, and I was completely gobsmacked. And that made me want to learn to use the system. So I stayed in America for a few more months to go on the training, and I felt that I needed to tell everyone about this. So I brought this work to England, and that's how I actually got here with this work. That was the beginning of the whole thing. And then I worked in the corporate world in England and London for about 7 years. And then what happened was that I just had this strong urge that I had to leave this job. It just wasn't fitting me anymore. It was a massive transition time, and everything had to change. So I traveled again around the world, the other half of the world I hadn't seen the first time. And then I thought I was going back to New Zealand, but then I got pulled back here to England. And I came back here in the late 90s and set up my spiritual practice, giving soul contract readings, helping people understand their lives, because so many people seemed quite lost in what was going on. Things just kept happening to them all the time, repeatedly, and I didn't know why. And so I started giving these soul contract readings in London and gradually built my practice, and it's been going for about 15 years now. And I'll just take someone's name, birth certificate name, and extract the Hebrew numbers from the equivalent Hebrew sounds and basically explain to them why they were here, what their soul had created for them. And so the way we do that is we basically look at the lifetime in terms of both a physical and a spiritual aspect. And the physical aspect is what we deal with in the first part of life, in the first usually 35 years or less of life, when our soul's chosen a name. And it's not by accident. And that name's been chosen to set up a set of energies, frequencies, which by the law of attraction will create each moment in our life. And when our parents name us and register our birth certificate, that contract's fully activated. And it's the program behind the law of attraction that most people are familiar with. And so within this program, the soul creates challenges or karmic patterns for us to engage with and overcome. And those patterns create what I call the negative context of our life, those big challenges which we need to face. That also creates latent talents within us, all our abilities, and they rise to meet the challenge of the karmic patterns. And as we overcome the karmic patterns, for example, someone could have a lot of disempowerment in life. And as they overcome that disempowerment, they learn what it is, experientially, viscerally and emotionally, what it is to come into their power. And as the talents get stronger by working through the karmic pattern, that helps us move to the goals, the underlying drive we have in life. This is both in the physical world and in our spiritual growth. And so, as the spiritual side of our life starts to evolve, which happens, we make a transition between 35 and 42 or earlier, some people call it the midlife crisis, then the real meaning of life starts to be sought at a deep level by people, because the soul's switching us on. It's saying there's a deeper purpose for this life. It's not just the job and the house and just our life the way it is. We seek out deeper meaning. And so it's the soul purpose coming online. So I help people understand all those 6 aspects of their life, the physical and the spiritual, karma or challenges, talents and goals. And then when we blend all those 6 aspects together, we get the soul destiny or the life purpose or the meaning of life for each individual, the real purpose for coming to Earth, for incarnating. And this is sort of a summary of how the soul contract reading work functions, and it's really providing what I now call the spiritual map of life. It's the sort of the spiritual sat nav that everyone would like. They'd like to know, well, where am I going, rather than sort of just life sort of happening to me. And so the purpose of it is to help us align with the deepest desires and drives of our soul. And as we do that, life becomes more fulfilling and satisfying as we align to that spiritual energy. And that allows us to manifest a happier, more fulfilling life, because it acts as a guidance tool to help us work through the big challenges we face, which can be hard at times, bring on our real talents and help us achieve the real goals, not goals of the mind, but the deepest desires of our soul, and to deliver our gift of service to the world, which we all have in some way. So that's sort of a summary of my journey, really, and how I got to this place with this work. And my job now with the book is to share this work with as many people as possible, to help as many people as possible live a more fulfilling life. Because I've worked as an alternative therapist for about 15 years full time now, and I see so many people go through so many challenges, and I realized that I needed to spread this work to as many as possible to give them a helping hand to get on with life.
So, Nicholas, some people choose very challenging lifetimes, and some people choose lifetimes which are less challenging, and they're more able to activate their inner potential perhaps more easily. Is this all chosen before this incarnation, do you think?
Yeah, the soul, prior to incarnating, it reviews all its previous lifetimes, and it's usually following 3 or 4 key themes through many incarnations. And in the current lifetime it designs is designed to take on those themes and develop them further. Like a soul may experience blockages to expression through many lifetimes, so it'll just keep playing with the variations till it has all those experiences, because the purpose of incarnate life is to have the experience of moving from one state to another, like from shyness to great expression or disempowerment to strong empowerment. So yes, some stronger souls, if I can use that term, will choose much more challenging lifetimes, where some younger souls who are still getting up and running have had less incarnations on Earth.
Yeah.
Will probably choose less challenging ones because they're not quite up to the really big ones yet.
Yeah.
So just depends on the theme that the soul's really pursuing.
Yeah. And is it possible to actually work through a challenge in this lifetime?
If you understand it clearly, which is what this work is about, first thing is to understand their challenge, or the karma, and then working out, well, what tools are going to work with that challenge and applying them in a very focused, conscious way, because the human ego is designed to stop us fully grasping what the challenges are, to keep us unconscious. And when that happens, then it's much harder, because we're sort of running around in the dark, really, hitting the wall.
And I know the map that, having had the reading, you get this kind of, it can look like, I guess, like a six-pointed star, can't it, with the kind of soul destiny in the middle. That's one way of doing it. But so you have all these different portions of this map. And is it not just like you might have a set of numbers in one part, spiritual karma, but isn't it also how they relate with other parts of the map that also gives you a clue of what's going on?
Yeah, well, what happens is that the soul puts in place, for example, in spiritual karma, there will be a spiritual talent, which it may or may not be good at working through the karmic pattern. If it is good, it'll flow directly into the karmic pattern. Yeah. And then the talent will get stronger, and as that spiritual talent gets stronger, then that will flow into what we call the spiritual goals on the chart, and the goals will start to activate as well. So everything depends on the talents. If someone has strong physical talents and spiritual talents, which are a good match for the corresponding physical karma and spiritual karma, then physical goals and spiritual goals, then their life will flow. Like that's why some people have an easier life than others. Whereas others, if they don't have very strong talents, they have to struggle much more, and then they need help in a different sort of way. They may need different energies with a different name or different relationships to transmit what they actually need. Yeah. Or they may need their name optimized, as you know, to help them move forward. Yeah. So there's usually a way, but it's different for each person on how to get through the issues that we face in our contract.
So it's not just understanding brings transformation. There are actually other things you can do to help move somebody through their challenges.
Yeah, we developed a whole range of recommendations depending on the challenges that someone faces and where they actually are in that process. And I make recommendations based on where someone is in their life in terms of what would work best and most gracefully for them to get on with it.
Yeah. What are some of the benefits you've noticed from clients who've gone through the system?
Well, the thing that I notice the most is that people have this big sigh of relief when they've had a reading, because suddenly all those disparate experiences, some of which they were doubting, all make sense, and they realize there is an order to their life. It's not just some random event happening and they being buffeted around by this chaos. Actually, they can see there's a complete order, and then they can start to take ownership of that. And then they start to feel empowered. They think, I understand how my life works for the first time, and now I have some recommendations, some tools for actually working through the issues which were really holding me back. So they feel like they can stand up and move forward, often for the first time. Or they have the answers to the niggling questions of why am I really here, what's really going on here, and hearing the truth of this work, the deep truth, sort of touches them at a deep soul level. That's what I find. Yeah. And also, I know, as I mentioned earlier, that it has a lot of scope, the system. You can go in at a personal level, relationship level, or a business level. Could you just say something about those levels? Yeah, the basic level of the work looks at your birth certificate chart to see what are you primarily creating in your life and how to work through that. And the second level, which is like overlays and relationships, is where we look at the effects of different names you've used, the names of partners, friends, family, and we can explain at a very deep level what are the underlying energy interconnections and dynamics, both positive, negative, and sort of neutral between you and those around you. And they explain basically why some relationships that all, be the personal, love, or business actually work, and some don't, and where people clash, and where they really harmonize and work well together. And in business, we can see how teams of people work together. We can see what are people's core strengths, what are their main lessons, what would they be best suited for in terms of working. And if we align someone to what their primary challenges are in work and what their skills are, then they will flourish a lot better and perform a lot better. And we also look at business names and website names, and we're trying to align all those names within someone's business so they're an outer expression of their inner soul journey. When that happens, the business will really flow, because these people will be in their passion, in their flow, and people will be attracted to that authenticity, that deep sort of soul heart transmission from that person.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, with all this kind of changes we're going through at the moment, 2012 now into 2013, end of Mayan calendar and all of that, age of Aquarius, has this system come more important, do you think, in the times we're in?
Well, there are about 2% of the world's population are what we call service souls or light workers, more highly conscious souls who've been to a planet like Earth to go through karmic school. many times before, and they've come here to actually bring their gifts of service to the rest of humanity and wake the rest of humanity up. And what's happening now is that it's time for everyone to awaken. You serve a soul to awaken and to get onto their true, what we call divine purpose. And this is why the spiritual movement is getting so strong, because the souls are triggering everyone to bring their divine purpose online, to bring their high consciousness and to embody it and to express it in the world. And this is why people are seeking, well, what's my real purpose and how do I get there as quickly as possible? I hear this a lot from clients, and they don't know why, but they need to find this at any cost and manifest it and get it out to the world, because the soul, each soul wants to bring its gift online and to bring that bubble, what I call holographic bubble of higher consciousness, of truth, of a new reality into the world. And that's actually how this world is changing. It's the transition from divine feminine towards masculine orientated society for 13,000 years to the much more divine feminine since 21st of December last year is really taking off now, and we're on a wave. And around the 27th, 30th of March, people will come out of the just integrating what happened on December the 21st, and they'll really want to come online, and the energy is really going to open up and expand. And that's why I'm launching the book at that time, because it's to answer the question of spiritual seekers. Why am I really here? So I can get on with it.
Great. What about your trainings? I know you do some face-to-face and online trainings. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I've been training practitioners since 1994 on this work, and we have 3 levels of training. And the first one is teaching the meaning of the 22 Hebrew letters we use in the system for birth charts, basically how someone's life is created, how to deliver readings to people about that. And the second level is the most interesting one after that, which is about relationships and name overlays. People always want to know how that works. And the third level is actually how to take this work out into business, spiritual businesses and normal business, to actually create a more fulfilling work experience by aligning everyone with their real purpose and configuring them so that things work very harmoniously. Basically it's all about aligning with the flow of spirit at all levels, and personally, in relationships, and at work. This is the work sort of we cover with this. Yeah, we teach these in person in Surrey, England, but also I teach it globally online as well through web conferencing. And
is the web conferencing kind of regular?
Well, we run it. Web conferencing runs over about 2 months, sort of a couple of hours, about 4 hours a week, and then we probably do those 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
At the basic birth chart reading training, and then the actual in-person training runs probably 3 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year, depending on demand.
Well, Nicholas, I look forward for your book launch. I guess it's coming. Your book is March, isn't it? 2013?
March the 30th, yeah.
March 30th. So I guess there'll be some kind of launch. You have to keep me informed. And otherwise, hope to catch up before then. And very best wishes for your work.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Great. It's been really good talking with you.
Oh, yeah, just one correction on the website name. It's Center with an ER for consciousascension.net.
Oh, yeah.
It's an American one, so.
Okay. That will go out with the podcast. Thanks, Nicholas.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Steve.
Like what you've heard? Be part of our community by visiting watkinspublishing.com, following us on Twitter @WatkinsWisdom, or liking us on Facebook.